Hey everyone, my name is Tony, one of the personal trainers here at Texas State, and today I'm going to be showing you some at-home workouts that you can go ahead and do with just a broomstick. So with most broomsticks, you can actually just screw it off, and this is going to be a great way to help you kind of work with posture movements, and I'll go ahead and show you how. So let's go ahead and get started. Starting off with an overhead squat, you want to place your feet about shoulder width apart. You want to point your toes forward and keep your ankle, knee, and hip all in alignment. You also want to make sure to keep your core braced. This will help to stabilize your pelvis. As you bring your hands overhead, make sure you bring your shoulder blades down. This will help you keep your chest up and have your shoulders in the right position. As you lower for the squat, you want to go down to about 90 degrees and push up off your heels and breathe out as you come up. Now to look at the movement from the side. Try to keep your arms level with your ear, and as you lower for your squat and go down to 90 degrees, try to keep your shins and your torso parallel with each other. It is very common for the chest to fall forward, and what this does is it places a lot of stress on the lumbar spine. Keeping your shins and torso parallel with each other is the best way to transfer a load throughout your body. If you find that your chest is falling forward and you're having a hard time performing the movement, you can always take it a step back and perform some overhead chair squats. Just make sure you pull up a stable chair and keep the same form as you would before, keeping those shins parallel with the torso and breathing out and pushing from the heels as you come up. Now to show you the movement from the front, you'll go ahead and notice that the form is exactly the same as it would be without the chair, but it's very important to use a chair if you're having problems with your chest falling forward, because what the chair shows you is that you need to lower the hips in order to complete the squat, not the chest. If you got the overhead squat down and you want something a bit more challenging, you can go and progress to an overhead reverse lunge. With an overhead reverse lunge, make sure to keep your ankle, knee, and hip in alignment, and as you come up, push from your heel and breathe out. At the top of the movement, squeeze the glute of the foot that's planted on the ground and try not to touch the ground until you get your back foot behind you. Now taking a look at the reverse lunge from the side. As you go back into your reverse lunge, make sure that knee in front doesn't go past your toes or stays in line with the ankle right below. And with that back knee, make sure that back knee gets as close to the floor as possible without touching the floor. In this position, you can also see that my chest stays relatively parallel to my shins in front, kind of like the squat before. Next, I want to show you how you can use a stick to maintain a neutral spine when performing a hip hinge. Starting off, make sure that the stick is aligned with your vertebrae and that it stays in contact with your head, mid-back, and your tailbone throughout the entire movement. The next step is performing a hip hinge, which is basically reaching the hips back for the wall behind you, and you should feel a stretch in the hamstrings when performing the movement. Also, make sure the stick stays in contact with that head, mid-back, and the tailbone when performing the movement. This will ensure that you're maintaining a neutral spine. When taking a look at the front, make sure those feet are about shoulder width apart, and that the ankles, knees, and hip all stay in line with each other. Once you got your hip hinge down, then you can start trying to progress towards a single leg deadlift, and you can use a stick as a stable point on the ground. Just make sure that you find a stable hard surface that can support your body weight. If you don't feel comfortable using a broomstick, you can always feel free to use a couch or a wall, something a little bit more stable. Remember what you learned on your hip hinge, and drive your hips back behind you. Try to keep your ankle, knee, and hip in alignment, and as you come up, drive from your heel, breathe out, and squeeze glute at the top of the movement. You might also notice that my opposite hand is coming up in front of me. This will also help with some stability as you're going through the movement. Now let's take a look at the movement from the side. This is going to be your starting and your finishing position. So make sure you keep your ankle, knee, hip, and shoulder all aligned with each other. As you hinge your hips back, make sure you keep your ankle right below that knee. This will allow you to reach those hips back and get a good stretch in those hamstrings. As you get ready to come up, keep that heel planted on the ground and pull those hips forward, squeezing the glutes at the top. Once you feel confident with your supported single leg deadlift, then you can take it a step further and try to do the single leg deadlift not supported. We're going to be using a stick again to make sure you maintain a neutral spine. So just like before, make sure to keep your head, mid-back, and tailbone all aligned with each other. The form is going to be exactly the same as it would be with a supported single leg deadlift, but This time you're working on stability, so really focus on keeping that opposite foot off the ground the entire time and keeping your heel down on the foot that's on the ground supported. If your foot does calm down and touch the ground, it's okay. Just as you work on the movement more and more, try to keep that opposite foot off the ground the entire time. The next thing we're going to work on is going to be a bit of shoulder mobility. You want to start off by putting your hands as wide as you can on the broomstick, but keep in mind, the more narrow you put your grip, the harder it's going to be. Then you want to bring your hands up overhead and extend your hands all the way back until you touch your glutes. Just take your movement slow and come all the way back up to the front. This is going to get a great stretch of your anterior delts and a bit of your chest as well. This movement works on your rear delts and the middle back, and it's perfect movement for people who have rounded shoulders or for somebody who had a hard time keeping their hands overhead while doing an overhead squat. So let's go ahead and get started. Starting off, you want to keep your hands a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. Hinge your hips back, maintain a neutral spine, and point the thumbs up. As you raise the bar over the head, make sure to depress your shoulder blades. This will make sure to activate the middle part of the back. Now taking a look at the movement from the side, notice how the movement starts off with the hip hinge, keeps a neutral spine, and keeps the chest parallel to the ground. This is important because gravity is going to be our main source of resistance, so make sure to keep the chest parallel to the ground and maintain a neutral spine. Doing so will help you feel the muscles you're supposed to feel, which is the mid back and the rear delts.
Alright everyone, thanks for watching. That's all I got for how to use a broomstick to work through some posture movements. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us at the Texas State Rec Center. My name is Tony, and thanks again.